Many Catholics face difficulties while discerning their vocations. During these times of difficulty, I think it's beneficial to look to the saints and those who are on the path to sainthood for inspiration. The following people are examples of Catholics who faced obstacles while discerning what they thought to be their vocation. Blessed Jean-Joseph Lataste was a handsome young man who felt both drawn to the priesthood and unworthy of it. He said, "I did not dare admit my desire, for the role of the priest seemed to be so great, and I was so aware of my unworthiness." His discouragement led him to fall into bad habits and immorality. He fell in love with a girl named Cecile, but his father had them separated. During this separation, he felt drawn back to the church. When his very religious sister and Cecile died within weeks of each other, he recognized firmly his calling to the priesthood. He became a priest and lived for only 18 months after his ordination, becoming renowned for his work with female convicts. Venerable Quintino Sicuro was also drawn to the priesthood as a young man, but he failed the entrance exams necessary to pursue his vocation. He enlisted in the border police instead and had many romantic adventures. He even became engaged, but he still felt drawn to the religious life. He broke off his engagement and tried to join the Franciscan friars, but he only lasted 2 years in their community. At this point, he decided to retreat from society and live as a hermit, sleeping on rocks and eating herbs. His local bishop was impressed with his self-denial and ordained him when he was almost 40 years old. Blessed Victoire Rasoamanarivo was a convert from Madagascar who felt called to the religious life. Her parents objected to her calling and instead arranged a marriage with her cousin, who turned out to be a womanizing drunkard. Victoire's friends urged her to divorce him, but she insisted that though she hadn't wanted to get married, marriage was a sacred sacrament that could never be broken. She prayed for her husband's conversion unceasingly. When missionaries were expelled from Madagascar, Victoire led her fellow Catholics in prayer, becoming a leader in the Catholic community. When she was 40, her husband died. He asked for her forgiveness and was baptized before his death. Venerable Edel Quinn was also prevented from following her dream of becoming a nun, but in her case, the impediment was her poor health. Instead, she joined the Legion of Mary and decided to become a missionary in Africa. The Legion was hesitant to send her because of her frailty, but she insisted. For the next 8 years, she worked tirelessly to spread the faith in multiple African countries. When she died, it was said that she had more experience than any other missionary in Africa, having established hundreds of Legion branches and councils. Saint Mutien-Marie Wiaux was a bit less naturally talented. He joined the Christian Brothers, a teaching order, and was convinced that he wanted to follow their way of life. His performance as a teacher, however, was initially abysmal. The brothers even considered expelling him from the order because he might give his school a bad name. A fellow teacher took him under his wing and provided him with the direction that he needed. He became a great teacher known for his gentleness and piety. He volunteered at other schools to educate poor children, and he was remembered fondly by all of his students. Blessed Martin Benedict was called to the priesthood, but his studies were interrupted by the communist regime in Romania. Instead of becoming a priest, he became a doctor instead. As a doctor, he focused on patients' physical and spiritual health, becoming known as the doctor who prayed a lot. He continued to feel called to the religious life, and he was secretly ordained when he was 49. Though he was under police surveillance and he faced death threats and assassination attempts, he lived out his dual vocation until his death 6 years later. Servant of God John Bradburne also worked with the sick. He was a Catholic convert who wanted to join the Benedictines, but they refused him because he hadn't been a Catholic long enough. He became a wandering vagabond, searching for his vocation. He left behind many spiritual poems, and he even holds the Guinness World Record for being the most prolific poet in the English language. He finally found his calling when he started volunteering at a leper colony in Zimbabwe. When guerrilla combatants threatened the colony, he refused to abandon them and he was killed. He was remembered for the extreme kindness he showed to the patients there. Maria Magdalna Bodi was called to the religious life, but because she was technically illegitimate, she was forbidden from becoming a nun. Instead, she focused on living as holy a secular life as possible. She was involved in local charities and led local children in faith retreats. She was also active in ministering to female laborers. She was killed when Soviet soldiers occupied her village. She died defending her purity while helping other women escape. These are just a few examples of Catholics who faced obstacles while pursuing their vocations. Even if they were prevented from doing what they initially thought they were meant to do, they all accepted God's will and were determined to live holy lives.